Hello, co-journeyers, and welcome back to The Truth So Help Me Good. I am your host, Barbara Landry, and together we continue to explore some of the bigger questions about this journey we call life, with inspiration from my upcoming memoir, The Truth So Help Me Good. Welcome to episode 17. For as long as I can remember, music has been an important part of my life. There was something about the way that it evoked deep feelings that drew me to it. As a very young child, I can remember classical music playing in the house, the strings of the violins sounding like the collective grief of humanity. And although it inspired feelings of sadness, there was something so powerful in that. Music spoke to me in a language that could be understood without words. In my memoir, in a chapter entitled, "I Could Have Danced All Night," I write about the role that music played during a time in my life when I was filled with despair. And I quote, "If I had known anything about spiritual practice when I was 14, I would have considered the window seat in the family room my altar, the myriad vinyl record albums containing the works of Carole King, James Taylor, and Simon and Garfunkel my prayer books, and the act of singing with all my heart and soul upon my altar my prayers." Looking back now, and even then, there was something within me that knew that those prayers were not only being heard, but were also being answered. In my aloneness, I did not feel lonely. Instead, I was plugged into the universal themes of heartache and loss, pain and despair, hope, and the promise of a better tomorrow. When I was overcome by waves of sorrow in the forms of sobs and uncontrollable tears, I felt alive and part of something bigger than me. I could picture the faces of children starving in Biafra, saw visions of Holocaust survivors and soldiers dying in Vietnam. My pain connected me to a world full of suffering, and in some ways, the two were indistinguishable. At the same time, sitting at my altar, uttering my musical prayers, I could also access feelings of optimism and the fact that after every rain, the sun eventually shines. End quote. Music continued to inspire me when I played the role of Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady when I was 15, channeling my rebellious teenage spirit and frustration into songs like "Just You Wait," and also allowed me to express my sense of eternal optimism in the songs "Wouldn't It Be Loverly" and "I Could Have Danced All Night." Eliza Doolittle became a vehicle through which I could express my own suffering. Music tells a story. Music tells our human stories, and in that way, it truly is universal. In her book, Bittersweet, Susan Cain tells us how sorrow and longing help to make us whole. She begins her book by introducing us to Vedran Smailovic, a cellist from Sarajevo. In 1992, when Sarajevo was under siege during one of the bloodiest civil wars of the late 20th century, she describes a burned-down 1984 Olympic Stadium and its playing fields, which had been converted into makeshift graveyards. Apartment buildings pitted from mortar fire, and the incessant sound of gunfire in the background. Amidst all of that, for 22 days, Vedran Smailovic put on his formal white shirt and tails, and amid gunfire and carnage, played Albinoni's Adagio in G minor on his cello, while seated in a plastic chair in front of a bakery to honor the 22 people who had died the day before when a shell exploded as they were lined up for bread. Soon after, other musicians were inspired to do the same. The music is both heart-wrenching and beautiful, all at the same time. Something that Kane dubs as bittersweet. The fact that as human beings, we are conscious of both the light and the dark, sorrow and joy, and recognize that they both exist hand in hand. In her book, Kane examines the phenomenon of our longing, also called melancholy, that it is the bitter sweetness of life that causes us to transform our pain into beauty, which helps nourish our soul and bring us to healing. She explains, and I quote, "Most of all, bitter sweetness shows us how to respond to pain by acknowledging it and attempting to turn it into art the way musicians do, or healing, or innovation, or anything else that nourishes the soul. If we don't transform our sorrows and longings, we can end up inflicting them on others via abuse, domination, neglect. But if we realize what all humans know or will know, loss and suffering, we can turn toward each other." End quote. Several years ago, I started attending the opera with my parents. This was no ordinary opera experience. The Metropolitan Opera had started streaming live performances of their productions in movie theaters across the world, an opportunity that otherwise required going to New York, paying lots of money, and not nearly getting as good a view of the stage. In the live stream setting, you are not only getting unbelievable close-ups, but you also get to see set changes between acts, as well as interviews with the opera singers themselves. It has been a life changer and has opened up a whole new world to me. My parents and I do joke often when reading the summary of the individual operas about the tragic deaths that inevitably occur at the end of almost every opera. But in the telling of these stories, we have a vicarious experience of the bittersweet, and through the music are moved. This past weekend, my husband and I saw Puccini's Madama Butterfly right here in Merrimack, New Hampshire. During the production, we had the added bonus of seeing segments with the conductor, where she explained various aspects of the music that added so much depth, and the costume designer who explained her choices of color and design. But it was the performance of Asmik Grigorian as Koko-san, a young Japanese geisha, that stole the show. Coco-san had married an American soldier, B.F. Pinkerton, at the age of 15 in Japan, only to have him leave her and return 3 years later with his new wife. In her dismay and dishonor, Coco-san takes her own life, only after arranging to have Pinkerton and his wife take their son. The magic of the production is in the way Coco-san shares with us her emotion, the gentle innocence of their love and marriage, the eternal hopefulness of his return, the devastating sorrow of his new life and that she is not a part of it, and ultimately coming to the end of hers. Through her sorrow, we can feel our own. Through her human vulnerability, we feel our own. Through her acceptance of her fate, we have inspiration to feel ours. And through this intimacy, we can experience the fact that we are all in this together. It is the universality of human suffering that allows us to connect to the story. A few short weeks ago, I was contacted by my ukulele teacher, Amy Conley, and leader of a band called the Kukuleles. She was looking for participants for an event to take place at the Mariposa Museum in June called I Am Woman. I immediately said yes, and when it came time for the first rehearsal last week, I found myself full of doubt, having not picked up my uke or used my singing voice for some time. But with Amy's encouragement, I showed up, and I was so glad that I did. I found myself in a group of beautiful, soulful, loving women. And when we brought our voices together in song, it was magical. Once again, what struck me was the power of the music and the visceral response. It was uplifting and truly transformative. One of the songs that struck me the most was I Am Willing by Holly Near. In fact, for days, I could not get it out of my head. It is a peaceful song, which I would call an invitation to awaken rather than a protest. Gloria Steinem once commented that in the song, Near had captured the truth of the fact that the women's movement and the peace movement are the same movement. Near herself has explained that she was looking for a word which represented her beliefs, and what she came up with was, I am open and I am willing. And so it feels right to end this episode with the lyrics from I Am Willing by Holly Near. I am open and I am willing. To be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There is hurting in my family. There is sorrow in my town. There is panic in the nation. There is wailing the whole world round. May the children see more clearly. May the elders be more wise. May the winds of change caress us, even though it burns our eyes. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion. Give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. Thank you, co-journeyers, for listening. I look forward to being with you again soon. Take care and be well.